everyone. David Rose with the Living Tarot here. Friday, the 28th of June, 2019, for my count them, fourth in a row, daily 3. Getting into a little bit of a rhythm here. Get up in the morning and do a little Kundalini meditation, which is new to me and kind of blowing my mind. It's really wild. I've always been kind of, back when we were touring with the Living Tarot, I had these major physical changes start happening to me that I couldn't really explain. For one, there was this bone right here that all of a sudden just showed up right below my sternum, like this little pointy bone that all of a sudden had never been there, and then all of a sudden it was an outie. It's like if your belly button just shifted on you. That was pretty odd. Actually, three things happened in the second year of touring the Living Tarot, just to show you how things began manifesting in your body when you're. I think it has to do with when you're following your heart and you're really doing what you want to do. Is your body adapts and changes to open you up to future developments. The other thing that happened was I got kind of electric. Like all of a sudden I would have these jolts that came through my body, and they would kind of start at the base of my spine and jerk up. And if I was hearing something particularly that was really affecting me, or that I found incredibly truthful or essential, then my body would jerk, and sometimes people would look at me and go, "Are you okay?" And then it got to where when I was getting a massage or something like that, my body would just flop around. Like there would be a release that would happen, and I would jerk, or my leg would kick, and I had to be really careful not to like kick my massage therapist, sometimes even an acupuncture. And you really don't want to mess around with that. So those were things that were happening to me. I also became, now granted, this was what opened it up was the second year I went to Burning Man. A man that we were touring with that was playing flute with us also happened to be a amazing chemist, and he had made some very pure LSD. And it had been many, many years since I had done that. I didn't really care for it as a young man, and I think those kind of psychedelics and mind openers are not good for young people. And I know a lot of burned out kids that did a lot of acid when they were young. I somehow, even being someone that was a Scorpio and having a little bit of an addictive personality, mushrooms and LSD were something that I did, and some part of me knew that I wasn't ready for it. I was a real slow developer. I didn't even hit puberty till I was pretty close to 18, which was awkward in the dressing room in football. But anyway, the at this Burning Man, I took this crystalline LSD in a capsule, and I would say that was the beginning of my true spiritual journey. It was the first time I had felt God, that you know, and I'm not necessarily an advocate or not an advocate for whether people should do psychedelics or entheogens. It has helped me greatly. It has also at times created damage for me that I've had to recover from. So it's very delicate work, but I tell you this because it's related to today's topic and question. And so at Burning Man, which is very like wow, opens you up. It's I took this acid and just had the most amazing experience of seeing and feeling God, whatever you want to define it as, and I couldn't even define it as just this the most amazing golden pure energy that was coming from the cosmos into me, and I felt more alive than I ever had. And one thing that opened up for me that night was that I could spin, like Sufi spin. Never done it before, never tried it, and all of a sudden it became part of my dance practice to spin. And I didn't get dizzy, and still to this day I love to spin. So those are things that can open up to you. Two of the three of those things had nothing to do with drugs. So it's not that you have to have drugs or psychedelics to expand your mind. Sometimes you need a little help. There's sometimes that I've been really stuck in my mind and haven't been able to get out, and I turn to psychedelics. Now, one thing that I learned early on is that if I was going to do those, I wanted to do those in a ritual setting and with great intention. I never wanted to just like pop some LSD and go to a concert. You know, like that's when I think it can get dangerous, because those are the, much like as I was talking about yesterday, those drugs can all open up a gateway to the astral, but it also can open up a gateway to the many bazillion gillion spirits and entities that are on this plane of existence, that are in this dimension. Some of them come from other dimensions, and they are only able to manifest if we allow them to come in. So today's topic kind of changed. It became solidified in my meditation. I don't have the question totally nailed down, but it's about and around addiction. A very, very close friend of mine that I love dearly. Her son is not only is he a type 1 diabetic, but he's a teenager, and he has become, over the last couple of years, a drug addict and a drug dealer. And if you know anything about type 1 diabetes, which I did not know anything about, you've actually got no business doing drugs at all, because your body just can't process things like other people's bodies can. Since he was 5, he has had a pump that has a injector into his, usually like inner thigh, and he has to enter settings into it, track his carbohydrates, track his sugars, track his diet, test his blood 10, 12 times a day, prick his fingers. His fingers are full of calluses. Now, I don't even know what that's like to grow up with that kind of, I'm just going to call it suffering. You can't play the reindeer games with the other reindeers as a kid. You can't go into sports and go into the shower without, you have this pump and this thing, and it's challenging to do everything. You can't go into the pizza party and just pig out on pizza without huge repercussions for that kind of carb loading. I mean, you can be one of the healthiest people known to man if you truly manage it, because you have to be so careful. But I think what was up for me, because I cried a little bit in my meditation thinking of this young man, is how much he suffered. I mean, I can feel it, I can hear it. I've heard his mom say that when he was young, at one point he said, "I just want it to end." Right? I mean, that's You know, and if you blend that with how hard this world is right now for our kids, you know, if you really allow yourself to feel, and that's, I think, what this is all about, really, is grief. You know, is that we're all out there suffering. We all hide it really well. I talked about that. and everybody's working really hard to mask their emotions. Oh God, we are professionals at that. I have been. And just this last September, up until then, I was addicted to tobacco. I drank alcohol every day. Anybody that wants to put me up on a pedestal can just put that shit right away. You know, I have struggled. I have been pounded down. I have risen up. And the thing that I know more than anything is that if I try to mask it, it gets worse. And so that's, to me, that's what addiction is about. You know, addiction is our safety valve, so that we don't kill ourselves or hurt other people, or just that so we don't have to feel and cry and rant about the way we were raised, or the sexual abuse in our history, or whatever it is. And I can relate to just about everything. So, God, what is my question? What is the question from the universe about? I mean, this this young man, he almost died like 4 times this year. One time they found him in a crosswalk, bombed out on Xanax. This is a 15-year-old, right? This is what our kids are doing, thanks to our own addictions and our own inability to communicate, right? We have to own everything. And he had lost his pump. He didn't have his pump with him. And if he hadn't passed out in a crosswalk, if he had passed out in an alley, if he had passed out where no one had seen him, he would have died. He would have gone into a diabetic coma and died. And yet he continues. He doesn't consider that he is killing himself, trying to kill himself, because that's too obvious to admit that. It's too painful to say the words, I want to kill myself. I don't want to live in this world anymore. So we do everything but do that. And so, I don't know, gosh, what is the question? This is what I do in my show. I talk with people about, well, what is it? How does it, you know, what is the best way to word this? How can I overcome my addictions? Where do my addictions come from? I tend to like the what can I do to overcome my addictions. For me, in September, I got out of a long relationship. And I decided to just quit everything. I was sick of it. I was sick of myself. I was getting ready to turn 59, which is coming pretty damn close to 60, right? I knew that I wanted to do this. I knew I wanted to go on the road and do the Living Tarot. And I knew that if I wasn't clear, if my aparelho, as they say in Portuguese, my apparatus for channeling was not clear, then I'm going to be lame. And the show is going to be lame. And the information that I can access will be greatly limited. So I just made the choice the first time in my life that I had really knew exactly what I wanted to do. and then I knew that I couldn't keep doing what I was doing. So I gave up tobacco, 30 years of smoking, alcohol, marijuana, sugar, wheat, caffeine, all these regular parts of my my day, and I just stopped. I thought tobacco was going to be the hardest. Sugar and wheat, man. The comfort stuff, the stuff that saved me, I thought saved me, that comforted me from the earliest days, from my early sexual abuse to, to living in this world. Sugar and wheat. Pies and cakes and chocolate chip cookies, blah, blah, blah. All fantastic masking techniques. Subtle too, it's just sugar. Nobody's gonna think you got any major problem there other than a sweet tooth. But they're all things that masked, the daily beer or two, which would sometimes turn into 3, or if I was having a really rough day, 4. Smoking marijuana at night, man, I was gone by 10 o'clock at night. Boy, I was ready for bed. I had just driven myself into the ground with covering up my addictions. So I'm going to just say, what are the actions that I can take, we can take, to become aware of and overcome our addictions? Whew. So as you can see, yes, crybaby, yes. But I take that, I wear that proudly, because one thing I try to do in my show is model what I feel is a healthy way of living in this world, and that is to express my emotions. Never used to do that. You kidding me, Scorpios? We like to, if you're a Scorpio, we like to keep it real on the down low, man. Addictions, if I got them, I keep them hidden. Really good at hiding all of those things. I've known people for years and they go, "You smoke?" It's like, yeah, I'm really good at that. Really good at hiding that stuff from everybody. So, what can I do to recognize and overcome my addictions? That's the question from the galaxy that's coming to me. Okay. And this reading goes out to my teenage friend. May he find peace and harmony in his life. May his mother find peace and harmony in her life as she navigates and supports and tries to steer him against his own wishes to sobriety and emotional clarity. All right. In the position of the challenge, we have the Fool. That's a very interesting first card. The challenge, in the position of the action, we have the Empress. I was just thinking about temperance today. So we have the Fool as the challenge. We have the Empress as the action to overcome the challenge. And the position of the transformation, we have Temperance. Wow, and I was so expecting, like, oh, the devil's going to come, or the Tower. the Fool. So I don't think we've had the Fool yet show up. Fool's been coming up a lot in my shows like here in Denver. But in the Fool, he stands on the edge of a precipice, right? Beautiful sun behind him, his loyal little dog barking at his heels. He's on a journey, he's got his pack. He's beginning the journey of life. Wow, I don't think I ever noticed that. He's got a white rose in his hand, which is particularly meaningful to me. For one symbol of the rose, the white rose, is purity. It's also the sacred name of the Virgin Mother, the rose, my last name. So I'm going to take this reading very personal, and I have, as you can see, I try to take everything very personally. So the Fool is in the Tarot, the major arcana which I work with. The beginning of that is the Fool, the 0 card. It is you could call it the infinity card, the nothing, the allness in nothing. It is the beginning of the journey, and people think the Fool, when they think the Fool, they think foolish. I mean, his head is in the clouds. He is beginning a journey. And I think the reason the Fool has come up in the challenge position is because it also represents innocence, like our truest innocence. And God, I'm going to cry again, because like this young man who grew up with such a challenging overlay, physical, and a mom that was never given the skills, as most moms are not, to be a mother, had no example of what it's like to be a mother. So making it up as they go. Or like for me, early childhood sexual abuse, which so many people have had happen in their life. And those are the things that destroy our innocence, and why it's so important for us to face that as early as we can, and to call out when we see it. But I think the Fool in the challenge card of this is saying that the challenge is that we've lost our innocence. God, I did. I can honestly say that I have not reclaimed mine until recently, and I'm almost 60. Like I used to joke about myself, I may be slow, but I'm dense. I just think I was incredibly strong and had to have the shit pounded out of me over and over again to really get that I am a child of God and that I am a being of light, like each one of us is. And we get pounded down in this very challenging world. And so how do we keep our light, right? How do we stay awake? How do we feel? How do we cry? My goal was not to cry during the whole reading, to model how to be in touch with our emotions. And maybe that'll stop at some point. But right now, this is what it feels like to really be in touch with your past and where you came from, and to recognize that so many of your needs were not met, and we try to meet them with food and with drugs and with alcohol, and with sex, with relationships that somehow mimic our parents or somehow mimic the trauma of our abuse. And totally understandable. I've done it for many years, and maybe you have too. So the challenge is, can we reclaim the light of the Fool? I mean, there is nothing dark in this card. The sun, which in the tarot deck is love, just pure radiant love from the cosmos, Christ love, Buddha love, Allah love, self-love, self-love. God, that's been the hardest thing for me, to take the time for my own self. So do it, please do it. Please take the time for yourself. Don't wait till you're friggin' 60 years old. You know? Yeah, just, it's time right now, you know, you have to do it, you just have to do it, you have to give up whatever it takes to do it. It's life and death, and help your kids do it, please, let's help our kids do it. The Empress, the feminine. God. See another card with no darkness. The sun, bright day, the yellow of the grass. It's just like it's like showing that there's like love in everything. There's love in the trees and the grass and the flowers on her head. And this is like the divine feminine principle, which has been so stomped down in this world. And we have to reclaim it. As men, we have to reclaim our own feminine, and we have to honor the feminine. I mean, we have a disgusting president right now that is modeling the exact opposite of the thing that we need the most right now, that we have to have now the most. We need to listen to the women. We need to honor the women. We need to put the women in charge for a while. God. I mean, as men, we have to accept that we have fucked it up pretty bad. And we are more prone to greed and violence and power trips. It's not to say that women don't have any of that. I'm not saying that. And I'm not saying all men have that. So quit taking shit so personal. But we have to embody, as men, the divine feminine within ourselves. It's a way that we can begin to heal ourselves, and a way that we can begin to let go of our power trips and our ego trips and our sexual domination trips. The Empress is teaching us, all of us, that we have to be in the earth, and we are of the earth and from the earth, and be in nature more. One way to overcome your addictions is when you have those urges, get up and get outside and go lay in the grass, go for a hike, get out of town, go camping, stack sticks. It doesn't matter. You have to act and be in the mother. It's so simple. I mean, really, I don't think I ever practiced that. Just a couple of days ago, I think it was the day that I did my first daily 3. And my lady had been telling me, you got to get outside. You're in Colorado. What are you doing? You're in a parking lot. And I did. And God, it did everything. It helped me so much. So I think as an action to take, the Empress is telling us, get out there and be in nature. Feel your feminine side. Feel the softness. Begin to soften around the edges of this addictive desire to cover your grief and your sadness and your anger. And Temperance. This card keeps coming up a lot here. It's in the running for the Chariot in the daily 3 has been like the number 1 in my shows. Temperance has come up a lot, and Temperance is the concept of we We know the concept of tempering. You may know that concept. It's like when you temper steel. You're making a sword. You're making really high grade steel. You heat it up, and then you dash it into ice water. You heat it up and you heat it up and you dash it into ice water over and over again. And that process of the extremes, bringing two things like ice water and cold steel who do not belong together, don't really play that well together. And by doing that, we create a resilience in ourselves. Like in this world, we are living in a world where I would recommend you turn off all your media except Facebook, because that's the way you're going to do this. And even that, just like, oh my God. Or just once I get this whole blog set up, just go to that daily if you want. Please do. But temperance is telling us that we can become stronger, that we exercise our muscles of resilience, that we exercise our muscles of innocence, of remembering, practicing being innocent again. And then we're going to get thrown back out into the world and be in shitty traffic and have bad moods and have teenagers that relapse into their drug addictions but we have to feel our own strength. We have to know that magic exists, and this magic that exists is our ability, this amazing, resilient ability to come back from pain and come back from suffering. And so the temperance card is telling you is that we can. You have to exercise that muscle. And you might relapse you may not have the drive that it took me 60 years to have, to just quit it all at once so that I could do what I'm doing right now. But do what you can. Do every little bit that you can to not mask your emotions. That's the key of this reading, is become more resilient, recover faster. Don't mope around in your sadness. Yell primal screams into pillows. I encourage people at my shows all the time to make a frigging sound. People are so quiet. Quit being quiet about your suffering. Quit being quiet to yourself about your suffering. Stop. I'm planting the seed of you stopping right now the old patterns in your life. I'm stopping. You're stopping. We are stopping. And the world is stopping, okay? That is what we imagine. That is how we plant the seeds in our past, so we can heal our past, so our present is healthy, so our future is different. It's the way that we can control time within our own minds. We can do that. You have the capacity to do that. I have the capacity to do that. That is what we do when we reimagine our past, when we heal our past, when we manifest change in our future and our present, and that changes the future. It changes the future for all of us, but we all have to do it. You just have to do it. You can't put this off any longer. It is right. This is critical for our children. They're dying out there using our Xanaxes, using our Zolofts. I don't even know all the names of the stupid drugs that we're taking, adults are taking, to mask our shit. And they're just going through our medicine chests and becoming addicted, because it's a hard fucking world to be in. Pardon my French. It's hard. We didn't grow up with social media. People my age, I would have done so poorly. So, there you have it. That's the reading. Standing by it. I've got my last, right? I think that was the most crying I've ever done all the way through a reading, but that's just what it is. It's heavy. It's hard. It's deep. It's what we all carry around. And if you don't, man, wow, what a life you've had. I'd love to meet you. But I've got my last 3 shows here in Denver tonight at the Circus Collective. And please, the people that are paying attention to this, go to my, I think it's really important. We have to share this information. This isn't just for me or for you. Send this link to your friends. Send this link to the mothers and the fathers that you know that have children that are addicted, whether it's to social media, whether it's to drugs. It doesn't matter. Share this, please. Help each other. That's our job. That's our job. Please, we have to help each other. We are not in this alone. You are not alone, all right? livingtarot.org. That's where my website, that'll have a link to the Daily 3, which is on my YouTube channel. And let's make some changes in our lives, all of us. And send me your questions. I will do questions. So far, nobody's asked me a question yet in my responses on to the YouTube page or onto my website. There's a contact us section. Write me an email. I write back. All right. You know, it's not always light and fluffy out here in Tarot land, let me tell you. So love all you amazing people, whoever you are, and have a great day.